Welcome back to Watching the Throne on the Late Night Chat Network, episode 50. All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. 50 episodes into this show. It's been a lot of fun. And I'm your host, Nico, aka Maester Stats. Leslie, Maester Stats, as they call me around here. You just had to bring all your stats business to the show, didn't you? But we'll get to you in a moment. And then, of course, we got our co-host there, as always, JT, Sir JT. How's it going, man?
It's going, buddy. It's going. I should just be a unit. I'm just gonna be Unique JT.
But of course, we do want to introduce our special super fan guests here today. Of course, from the Late Night Chat Network, our co-host, our partner in crime over on Late Night Chat here. We got Leslie, aka apparently for today, House of Late Nights, Queen of the Stats. How you doing, Leslie?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
And of course, we've been talking about you coming on the show for a while now. This has been highly anticipated. As soon as Leslie found out we were doing this show, being the big
I picked this episode.
being the big Game of Thrones fan that you are, this is literally the only episode you requested. You're like, I don't care what happens. I don't care. I will wait to come on the show. I'm busy right now at the moment anyways, but this is the one fucking episode I want to be on for. So you guys let me know in advance what you're going to get to. We've been talking about this coming up for quite a while now. And we're going to get to you and why you picked this episode in a minute here. But guys, we have to open up with this because this has been an ongoing kind of, and you gotta give me props, Jay, for not spoiling this for you, because I've really been tight-lipped about this.
It's so hard. It's so hard not spoiling shit for him.
Watch what you say here today too, as well, as because there's some big stuff that they're following up on from this episode going into episode 6. But JT has been taunted about Jon Snow possibly dying due to a spoiler that was thrown out to him, but was played off as a joke early on in him watching the show for the first time. Jay, what did you think about the moment when he died at the end of this episode? Let's get it out of the way right here, right now. Like, we'll get back to it later on, but were you shocked by this moment, or were you anticipating it? I know you've been anticipating it, but were you still shocked by this?
Oh yes, very much so. I wasn't really. You did a great job. I even told Leslie the other day that you've been doing a great job tiptoeing around, and how it's been so fun for you to watch me just sit here and dwell 50 episodes in thinking, is he gonna die this episode? Is he gonna die this episode? Is he gonna die this episode? 50 episodes later, you're able to pull it off and say, haha, sucker, I get my mouth shut. But unlike fucking Game of Thrones produced, yeah, exactly.
Not me.
No, your brother spoiled that one for you, I think. Then we tried to play it off. I was there when he said it, and then he tried to play it off like it was a joke, but it was already out there, the fact that he had died, right? So it was in the back of his head.
But you know why it was also in the back of his head? Because of the very first comment I gave him about watching Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
There's no forgiveness. Doesn't give, like, the writer of this show
does not
give two shits about who you love. He will kill off everybody you love.
I mean, that's evidenced quite a bit in this episode, but not only this episode, but that's happened, let's say, honestly, Leslie, like several times leading up to it. So, like,
since the first episode with Ned.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Last episode of the first season, but yes.
Yeah.
But even so, like, JT has been reminded of this over and over again. You told him that piece of advice at the start, which was nice of you to do, because, like,
nobody prepared me for it.
Neither.
I cried all the fucking time, mad, angry.
But yeah, Jay, I mean, like, here we are, like, jumping ahead at the last scene of this episode. Yeah, this is unfortunately Jon's fate in this episode did come as a shock to a lot of, because arguably he is the most popular character at this time. I would say at this point in time in the show, he is the one that we've now been following that in terms of like the Starks. That's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like the one that's like, you know what I mean? Like probably the best person out there right now that's kind of doing his thing and kind of, right? But like, I think he was a very, very, very popular character. I mean, for me, always it was Tyrion, but like, if not, Jon Snow was right there. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
especially.
I mean, he's the good guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is the guy everyone's rooting for, right?
Yeah.
So like, the fact that this happened.
Apparently not.
Yeah. Well,
Apparently not.
yeah, we'll talk about it when we get to that moment in time again. But yeah, I just needed to get that out of the way right at the start. I know you've been fucking on pins and needles, like waiting.
Were you heartbroken though when you saw that?
Oh, it bothered me very much. And
Really?
it bothered me. Yeah, it bothered me too. And you know that it was only like a handful of people. You know that really at the end of the day. So I mean, I wasn't 100% shocked. I was probably shocked in that scene, but I wasn't 100% shocked because, like I said, it's been kind of hinted out and ratted out to me. I even text my brother, man, in fucking on vacation, saying he's dead, like John's dead, and if my dad wasn't on vacation with him too, he probably would have thought he was talking about him, right? But yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh God, yeah, no, I bet that probably it's been fucking with you for a while. I know, but doesn't it feel better now that you can kind of move forward now with the show? There's still 3 seasons.
Yeah, but what are they gonna do without him?
Well, we'll
I have
see.
to see now.
You'll have to see.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. I even asked guys before we got on the air here that I asked Jay if he had went ahead and watched any of the next episode because I was curious if he had to actually see if he was dead or not. After getting stabbed 6 times, mind you, 6 fucking times he got stabbed at the end of this episode. But of course,
and he's dead.
Jay had to go ahead and check. He didn't even watch the whole episode, guys. He told me he just had to go see if he was actually dead at the start of the next episode or not, right? Because usually the rule is if you don't see him dead after that, it's very possible that they could still be alive, right? So we'll get to that. There's even a moment in this episode that kind of leaves you hanging and whether or not somebody did, exactly. So we'll get into that here in a moment. But Leslie, let us know why you picked this episode of all episodes, like why this was the kind of like the apex possibly of you being a fan. Like why did you pick this episode out of everything in this series that like you were that's the only one I want to kind of talk about at this point, like when we start talking about this show.
So I know JT at the end of the episode after he watched it thought it was because of Jon Snow, and it couldn't be farther from the truth.
I figured.
Okay.
Yeah.
It couldn't. That's not why I wanted to come on.
Because it's not my favorite moment of this episode.
I thought so. That's why, right?
It by far not my favorite moment. So I'm a big villain fan, right? I love to hate. Okay, on a good villain. Okay, I think Lena Headey played an amazing villain. Like this woman deserved every award or accolade she possibly could get for her role in this thing. But I also, it's the one time Game of Thrones gave a shit about my feelings.
How so? Explain yourself.
Because Cersei got what was coming to her.
Yeah. See,
that's why I wanted to come on. Like, it almost reminded me of, I know you guys aren't big soccer fans, but there was a Roberto Baggio back in the day he was like the best Italian or one of the best players in the world at that time, right? And he was Italian, and Italy faced off Brazil in the World Cup, and it came to penalty shots in the finals, and he hit the ball over the net.
Okay.
And it completely destroyed his entire legacy.
Sure.
Nobody will ever know for every good thing that he did, except that one thing. And when he got off the plane,
I hear
when
you.
The Italians started throwing tomatoes at him and peaches and all this shit, and started spitting at him and saying "Vaffangulo, you shamed us," and all this fucking shit. So and then to see Cersei being a villain, right? And she's not done yet.
Yeah.
Like, her best work is still yet to come. This bitch, if you think she's been bad until now, you wait.
Well, that was one of my questions I was going to pose to Jay, was just like, how do you think she's going to come back from this, the humiliation? Because like, and to your point, this was also the huge takeaway from this episode for me, even originally when it aired. I loved that fucking scene so much. The fact that it followed it up by the thing with John. I was just like super shocked, of course, at the end of that too. But like, I wasn't prepared for that because I felt we got our huge fucking moment out of the episode with what happened with her.
With her, yeah.
Like, that was
'Cause
me.
that was a very impactful scene.
It was, yeah.
Very impact. The fact that like
Brought you up,
she,
and then they kicked you down. That's what they fucking did this show. They brought
yeah,
you
but
up to
that's
say,
how it
ha ha ha,
does. It's an
Cersei,
emotional roller coaster.
and
I
then
warned you,
boom,
man.
right in the nuts.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And sorry to disappoint you, Jay. I mean, we're gonna get to it later on. I had a little thing to read off, and I'm sure Miss Stats here also knows this, but that was a body double that was doing her part in this scene, which
Yeah.
Oh,
I only learned that a year after the entire series ended.
because she didn't talk about it at first, the person that
No.
did it, which, you know, good for her. But like, I
Yeah.
guess eventually she was getting taught, it was getting brought up a lot. So the person who was actually the body double went out and talked about it as well. And
Yeah.
and like Lena Headley, right? It is, yeah.
I think it's Headley. I'm not sure.
She had talked about it as well, about basically like how brave it was of her to kind of do this, because it took like 3 days of shooting for her to basically do the work where like she walked in front of her to make it look like it was her actual body, and
Yeah.
kind of were able to put that together. But I got a little thing I'll read off later on. But I also remember at the time being shocked because, like, again, you haven't really seen her fucking buck naked on the show like this before, and like, again, just like not in her, it's not like it's not like you lust after her in this scene, you know what I mean? Like, it's a
No.
very humiliating fucking scene. So like,
Yeah.
speak for
again,
yourself.
it's so effective. I think the way that they did.
I think it's probably the most humiliating
Yeah.
scene I've ever seen on any movie, on any television show. Like, I mean, it was so impactful. I mean, I almost felt sorry for her,
No,
but then I didn't. But
Yeah.
then I was like, no, man, you bitch, you deserve it. You deserved it. Yeah.
But the thing is too, like, what's so awesome too, and like, Jay, you may not remember this, me and Leslie used to put this gif out to each other in the late night chat, like the shame, like we used to do that, like we used to put that out there, because, and you didn't get the reference at that time, because the whole shame thing, like that woman ringing the bell, who I mentioned a few episodes ago, or when she was first introduced a couple episodes ago, she's actually now is a very popular on this show Ted Lasso, which is a great show as well, about a soccer coach, and she's
Mention it.
the owner of the soccer team on that show. She said, you know, she's got, like, at this point, these are the two things she's most known for: playing this fucking woman that said the whole, because it was such an iconic moment in this show. And then I never noticed. I watched all this Ted Lasso. I literally just found this out when the show ended recently, when I read an article about her and how popular she's been from this show. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, all the way back from when she was on Game of Thrones. I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, she's a shame woman? I had no idea that was the same woman. And I watched 3 seasons of a show, because you can't, like, she didn't have her hair out in this. Like, she's always in like the kind of like the guard, like the nun.
The nun thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, awesome moment. Yeah, I figured that's why you picked this one, Leslie.
That's the only reason I picked this one. It wasn't for Jon Snow. It wasn't for any other reason except this. Like, this was
I even
like,
asked Leslie the other day didn't I ask you? I even asked you that question about it being a body double.
yeah,
And
I told you I
brought
thought
it
it
up.
was, but then I
Yeah,
only
you
found
didn't
it. And
kinda
then I
give it
looked
out,
up and
yeah.
I'm like, I remember that that interview that she did.
Yeah, because I even
It
wrote
was-
it down on my paper, Nico. I was gonna ask you about the
Oh.
body double, because we talked about it, I think, last episode.
With Kyle. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
We had talked about another scene where we thought it may have been a body double, and then I hinted that, well, there's gonna be some body double stuff coming up, but I didn't I didn't let the cat out of the bag.
I mean, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't change the scene whatsoever. I just thought you would be
They were
just
good at it.
interesting tidbit to learn, is that the fact that wasn't actually her. Because I think for the
now
first,
you know why I asked you for the bell, JT.
Oh, that red one that I got.
Right? And you said that I told you I wanted a bell for the show, right? And I'm like,
I used
and
to
I
have the
thought,
one from the schoolyards, like the
and
old
I thought it would be great
schoolyard
to keep
ones.
around every time I'm on an episode with you, because every time you say something
Oh,
stupid,
fuck
I could
off.
just go bring shame.
We need to get one for you now.
I
Now,
think I'm going to get one. I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet and just fucking get a bell.
You know what? Just fucking, maybe there's a little thing, a little chime on here that we can just go ding,
I
ding,
looked
and the
for it.
fucking
I
brand or
looked
whatever.
for one. I was like,
themes.
shame.
I do have a little handbell, but it's not
Yeah.
the same as the fucking ringing of a.
No, I want an actual like bung bung.
You just hit the metal underneath the table that you're on there. Just bang it with a fucking piece of metal, and that's it. And it'll echo in there enough. That'd be
Oh man.
hilarious.
But yeah, no, that's it. Honestly, this was a fucking doozy of an episode. I mean,
All right, now that we're done the episode, so let's move on. See you later, guys.
outside of that scene, though, yeah, like it was a great episode you picked, Leslie.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
one for sure to join us on. So, guys, as always, thank you for tuning in. Should have mentioned
of
this at the top of the show, but yeah, before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe. As always, if this is your first time watching the show, this is our Game of Thrones kind of like review show where we're watching the show episode by episode. JT, of course, is the newcomer to the show, has never seen the show before, so it's great to get his reactions with this. This is my first time rewatching it ever since the time it's aired, so I'm fairly still kind of new. And of course, Leslie is in the super fan chair here today. Have you ever rewatched this show as well, Leslie, or no?
So I remember rewatching the first 2 seasons because I watched them with a friend of mine because they hadn't watched it before, and so I started rewatching it with her, and just to like keep her like entertained, right? But then the rest of it was the first time. Only about 3 weeks ago did I binge watch this season.
Okay.
Just because I knew I was going to be on the last episode.
Right.
And there was like so much else. And then I've been also watching most of your review shows.
Mhm.
So I've been keeping up with Christina and Kyle and
Right.
just like all your opinions, right? And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. Although, my perspective is a little different, right? But it's so interesting to hear other people's perspectives on the same thing the same scenes everybody watches, but everybody has a different perspective.
I mean,
So
that's
interesting to see.
Right? It's good writing for you, right?
It is
That's-
great writing.
That's
And
kinda-
the motherfucker still hasn't finished writing the last book. He's gonna die before it happens. He is.
he's got wrapped up in the money and fame from the show, though, unfortunately, right? So,
No, I actually saw an interview with him and Stephen King.
where he says he has writer's block, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that clip because he's like, "How the fuck do you produce so many books?" He asked him, right? And he's
I
like-
still haven't finished writing my last book.
well, here's the thing: George R.R. Martin has written a lot of novels even prior to
To this,
Thrones. Yeah, he also had written some comic book stuff back in the day as well. Like he's been in the fantasy realm, I think, at least from what I can understand, at least since the early 90s, if not before in the 80s, from what I can understand. Just Game of Thrones was like just the one that hit, right? Like it was just the one that became like a huge hit, obviously, because of the show as well, right? So but yeah, no, I mean,
I think what happened to him was he had to give the producers of the show an ending, right? Because his intention was to have the last book written before the last season, right? And I think what happened was the show went in such a different possibility of a direction throughout for the last season that he gave his approval, but now I don't know if he's happy with whatever happened. So he may be wanting to change it. And then you overthink things.
Yeah.
And then it's very normal to get writer's block when you're overthinking things, right? And I think that's exactly what's happening with him. Hopefully, he gets over it, because I would love, to have a complete collection as opposed to just the books that I do have. Speaking of books, I wanted to get this out of the way. I found this for JT. So, JT, before we get into this episode, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $50 if you finish reading this fucking book. If you don't read the book, you owe me 50.
Leslie,
Okay.
tell him how many pages are in that book.
Huh?
Tell him how many pages are in that book.
There are exactly
Too many. Exactly too many.
In the novel itself, it ends at 835 pages.
All right, I want to see it. I mean, I would like to see it, man. I would like.
That's like fucking 10 books in one, man. What the hell is that?
This is just book one.
All right, we got to move on. We got to get to the.
I was gonna say this.
Would
guy's
you do it for
writing
$50? Will you do it for $50?
Eh.
And I will tell you, the pages are really thin. But I should have brought down my leather bound book because of book one. It's much nicer. But the pages are so thin, it looks like the Bible. Like they're like that, and they're leather bound. It feels like the Bible when you're reading it because they're that thin, right? They had to. Yeah, I got
Did it come with a
limited
pigeon or
edition.
what? Did it come with a carrier
no.
pigeon?
I got it. I love that joke, by the way. But I purposely got them because they're leather bound and small, and like they were a limited edition. And I was working at Costco at the time.
Oh, nice.
And they had them there, so I was like, oh, I got to get them, right?
Yeah.
And so I got them.
Nice. Yeah, well, like you said, hopefully they finish it someday. But anyway, without further ado, we should mention also the name of this episode we've been talking about, of course, Mother's Mercy. But if you clicked on this episode, you already know which one we're talking about. Mother's Mercy, Game of Thrones, Season 5, Episode 10, the finale of Season 5. Only 3 more seasons to go, and exactly 23 episodes out of those 3 seasons, because, of course, the last 2 are 7 and 6 split up, respectively. So, yeah, we're coming close to the end here. It's should be very interesting. But let's get into this.
They can't even give us 75 episodes. They have to give us 73. Thank you, guys.
All right. So here in the first scene of this episode, as the snow begins to melt, Melisandre is really happy to see this. Still grieving, Stannis prepares to march on Winterfell. However, one of his generals informs him that nearly half of his men have deserted, mainly the sellswords, who of course are, hitmen by hire, essentially, who have also run away with all their horses. And this is, of course, due to the fallout of him burning his daughter Shireen at the end of last episode, which was really
I couldn't, man. That was so hard to watch.
I know. Another soldier comes with more bad news. Selyse has hanged herself, his wife, out of grief for her daughter, which was quite a twist because, like we were talking about last episode with Kyle, she was always kind of the one hating on her out of the two of them. But yeah, she really, turned her corner and could not take the reality of what they did because that was fucked up, of course.
Yeah.
As he moves her body, his general reports that Melisandre has fled. So Stannis
got kicked in the balls, man. There, just like one shot, hard. Yeah, they all abandoned him.
They all abandoned him because
you
killed your fucking daughter. Like I would. That's a line you don't fucking cross.
I think that's like some mad kid type shit. Yeah. So I think people are gonna be like, yeah, I ain't fighting for you no more after something like that.
But his brother, rest his soul, right? In the first season, he warned Ned about his brother.
Robert did?
Yeah. No, not Robert. The other one that died.
Stannis?
Renly. Yeah.
Well, they both died. So not the one who was king. Renly.
The other one, right? Because you remember when he tried to convince in the first season Ned to draw his swords on the whole house with Robert and Cersei, because he said, he's like, but Stanislaw or whatever is. By the way, I suck at fucking names, so I'm gonna use like descriptions like the big girl or the whatever's okay in this. Right? And it's no offense, it's just how I remember the characters.
You've gotten better at it over time. We were also pretty bad at it at the start, so I've seen the show before. So
So when he actually in the first season there was a scene with him and Ned where he tried. I don't know if you guys remember where he tried to like convince Ned he could get 100 swords on him that same night and just kill the entire kingdom, right? To give Rhaenyra the thing. He's like, but your brother's the one who's the rightful, heir. He's the oldest, right? And he's like, yeah, but he has no heart. He won't be a king. I'm the one who should be king, right? And then that's when he was like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
When he died, that's when, because he was writing his last will and testament or whatever, his what he wanted done when he died. You're right. Ned went ahead and changed it to be Stannis because he believed more in him than he did in Renly. Because yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, listen, I gotta say, I haven't hated on Stannis. I feel like a lot of people have up to this point. I think he's very cold individual, and like he's made some bad decisions. But and he obviously got lost in his desire
Right.
for the throne, right? I think he just lost himself. And,
Yeah.
and I got to give it up to this show because like even a few episodes before the events of what has happened in these last 2 episodes, you thought he might still have a chance. Like I really thought that. And then you're over episode by episode, you're like, wow, things are really looking bad for him here. Like to this point where it's like, you know, he did such a bad job, like at the end here, like so bad. Like he has no men, like he's like out there fighting on his own, like, you know what I mean, at the end of his time here. Like it's pretty crazy what happened to him, you know what I mean? So like, you know, I got to give it up to them though. They really made you think there was hope.
There was hope for him,
honestly.
Yeah.
Up to the final
until he killed his daughter. Yeah, until he killed his daughter, and then it was like,
yeah. There's a
you
line, but
bastard.
even before they killed his daughter, they already thought Melisandre was sketch. That whole relationship between him and Melisandre, everybody was turning a weird eye on them, like what the fuck's going on over here?
Davos from day one, he didn't trust her, right? And that's why a few times, right? So
yeah.
All right. So Jon Snow tells Sam in this next scene what he witnessed at Hardhome. He hopes the White Walkers can't climb the walls. There is not enough dragon glass or Valyrian steel in Westeros to combat them. Sam asks Jon if he can travel to Old Town to study and replace Aemon as the new Maester of the Watch.
That was nice.
Yeah, we just seen him die recently, obviously the last episode, and as JT actually predicted, I mean JT was right about him wanting to follow in his footsteps in a sense, right? Like
but I think they foreshadowed that well in the show that would be the obvious next step for him.
I didn't know how. I don't know why I picked up on it or how. I know it was because he enjoyed reading, and he even said it a couple times in the show. But I didn't think, you know, I figured he'd probably be somebody like that when he's older. But I didn't know he can go and study to be that person. You know what I mean? I didn't understand that concept yet on the show. Yeah, so that was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. He feels there is no other way he can help them as he cannot fight. He's also afraid for Gilly and their child's safety and wishes to take them along. Jon reminds him that the Citadel will also not allow Sam to be with women, but is humored to hear that it is already too late for that. Sam promises he will return. They toast to that, and Jon sees his only friend off in this scene.
So I loved that scene between Jon and Sam when Sam finally tells him he isn't a virgin anymore. And he's like, oh, you almost died. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, it almost felt like you were watching two high school buds going, yeah, buddy, you know, like
you dirty dog, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, but how, Sam? You were injured or whatever. He's just like,
you almost died. How could you?
He has like a grid very carefully here. And it was made JT sit on his coffee there.
Yeah. I love that scene. It definitely like made me crack up a little bit. I just love their friendship. It was one of those like things that I just really loved. I almost gave away something, but I just really, 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 really love their friendship. I'm gonna leave it at that.
I'm paying attention for spoilers. Trust me.
I'm going to do my best not to, but you know me, my fucking big mouth sometimes.
You go just hit the mute button. Boom.
In Winterfell itself, Sansa uses a corkscrew that she pocketed earlier in an earlier
That's
episode.
what it was.
There you go. Jake picked up on that too. To escape her room in this next scene, and seeks out the tower to light her signal. So the way I'm going to kind of present these next few scenes, guys, is like there's a lot of quick cuts back and forth to these scenes. So like just know that while I'm describing the next few scenes, they're all kind of happening at the same time, kind of like in order to basically go through the scenes. I did the best I could in separating them, but know that there is cut scenes of like just the actions of these individuals being in 3 different areas during what is transpiring over this next like group of scenes. Okay. So just kind of to explain it to you guys a little bit. But yeah, we see this happen. Like we see her grab the corkscrew and we see her kind of finally she's making a run as this fight's going on, because at this very moment, they are rushing to go fight Stannis and cut him off, unbeknownst to him. At this
right, because he had no clue that was happening.
That's right. Yeah. So like she kind of sees this as an opportunity to finally go and light that flame up in the tower that Brienne of Tarth had sent the message out about. Like episodes ago. She's just been
Yeah.
waiting on.
He's like, look, I like swore fidelity to your mother, and that means that she's gone. I've got to swear fidelity to you. So if you need to go to that freaking tower and do what you need to do, but that Sans has gone already through so much. It's the smartest thing to do is just to freaking go to the tower, right?
Yeah, she sure has. So yeah, as I mentioned, Brienne of Tarth is warned by Podrick in this scene of Stannis' arrival and leaves her watch for Sansa's signal. But after some hesitation, like she literally is waiting to see if there's like a last kind of like ditch effort, like hoping that someone lights the kind of the signal, even though she wants to go and fight with the whole thing with Stannis going on.
Right.
And like moments after she finally fucking leaves, Sansa makes it up there to light the fire, but she's already that time, right? Which,
yeah.
Again, like just one of those things where they're so fucking close, people crossing paths in this show time and time again, and they pull out the fucking rug from under you so many times, right? But I mean, it kind of worked in her favor anyways, which we're, but yeah, that was kind of, I love how she again had been there for days just trying to make sure that she was safe, right? Like,
but then again, like, how can you make sure that someone
leaves.
is safe all the way across the freaking land in peeking between the forest that surrounds the castle?
Apparently you can in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I know, but it was pretty fucking hard for her. I mean, like, it was killing her inside. Because deep down she knows how horrible that family is too. Right?
Where does Brienne of Tarth rank for you, Leslie, in your favorite characters? Is she
oh man, like I hate it when people ask me that because I have so many favorites. Even my villains are favorites. Like, I think the character development and in this show was also one of the biggest reasons why it was so successful, because it was done so well. Right? The writing, like, I mean, you meet a gazillion characters and a gazillion shit happens to a gazillion characters on other shows that have affected you the way this one did, right?
Yeah, I think the character arc of Jaime in particular, which I've said since the first season of Jay, is one of my favorite in like all TV, because like you hate him.
Very good
show, and yet by the end of it I loved fucking that character so much.
Yeah, because he redeems himself.
Yes.
And many characters do redeem themselves in this show. Some of them die for it, some of them don't, right? I mean, like,
I haven't even seen people yet in this show. Like there's characters that are still have to be introduced, I would think, in this show.
Well, so I think the end of this season and the beginning of this next half of Game of Thrones you're going to see is the redemption part of any character that needs redemption. Like, they're going to start showing characters switch sides, change, be different than what you saw in the first half, up until first 5.
From what I can remember, I'd even argue in the 7th season, by the finale, there's a bunch of a lot of people end up on opposite ends of the spectrum at the end of even that season, because I think it's jumping ahead a little bit, Jay. It's not that big of a spoiler, but there's a lot of people that basically end up with each other that have never been with each other throughout the series of the show. Because obviously big things are going to happen towards the end of this show. You can see things building between the White Walkers and obviously the Daenerys storyline and everything else, right? So like,
that's what I mean.
But I would say that this season was that start with Jaime and what's Tyrion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those two characters were the first two to redeem themselves. Everybody else will kind of like come after, but I think this season was the switch for me when I started having different feelings specifically for those two characters.
Okay. So marching across the fields with less than half the men he once had, Stannis has his men start preparing for the siege, but is instead met in combat early by the Bolton army that basically cuts them off and meets them out there. With
huge. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck the Boltons.
Jason boy, fucking he loves it. Yeah. After the candle is lit, she sees the Boltons clash with Stannis' army. This is Sansa, of course, and sees this as a time to slip out of Winterfell after, this whole thing with the lighting. fails to happen. But while she's up in the tower, she does see out across the way them kind of trying to cut them off in the field there. So she's like, okay, it's not my chance to slip out. The mounted Bolton army easily defeats Stannis's tired and mountless army. Wounded and exhausted, Stannis fights off 2 remaining soldiers in the aftermath of the carnage and collapses.
Which good fighting on his part in that scene.
Yeah, it was. Again, the fact that he's still out there alive by this point,
when everybody else is dead,
and they cut them off like without them knowing. And the fact that he got wiped out, so the rest of his army got wiped out at this point. That's what I mean. Like he's
like dragging himself and getting up and trying to, he's trying.
He's a good.
Oh yeah, but when he gets the guy in the neck, I was like, oh wow, it's like you still have energy for that shit.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Even as because he got slashed across the leg in that scene, right? Like he can barely walk. That's why he's against the tree by the end. But like you said, in the final moments, he's still fucking bringing it to these guys, right? So like I got to give it up to him for. His endurance in those final moments to kind of still go through with all that, right?
He's a king for a reason. I mean, they the bloodline. It's strong. That's why he's a king. I don't know if that's why, but
been in many wars. I mean, he's been in.
Yeah, he's had to fight.
Yeah. After the battle, she waits and after the battle, Brienne waits and finds a wounded Stannis. This is when she kind of appears as he up against the tree, which is a really great scene. She declares who she is and that her king was killed by his brother's shadow that bore his face before drawing her sword to slay him. Stannis, having lost everything, simply accepts his fate to die. He tells Brienne to do her duty. After a moment's hesitation, Brienne swings her sword at him. But we do not see her make contact in this scene, though. It's worth noting. We see her swing the sword, and then it cuts.
I haven't seen that part or anything yet in the next one, so
not spoiling anything. I'm just saying you didn't hear it kind of. I mean,
I know it's switched scenes quick.
He has every intention to kill him in this moment. I mean, there's no reason for us to think otherwise, right? But I just wanted to point that out, that it is a rule in these type of shows that if you don't see that, that's why Jay went ahead and made sure to see the dead body in the next episode. If you don't see the dead body, there's the possibility that they're still alive, right? After a big ending like that. Walking Dead has taught us that. Lots of shows have taught us that, Jay. There's many moments where it looks like they're done for, especially on a season finale, and then you go back, right? But not this show, nope, he's dead. So
I know I've learned that so far. That's why I jumped ahead a little bit, and started watching a bit of the next one, right? But no.
He needed a win in this moment, though. I was happy for Brienne to give that little speech and finally catch up to this fucking guy, because she's been trying to avenge Renly in any way possible since his death, right? Especially after being ridiculed for saying she's seen the shadow and everything else, and no one believed her. Stannis is just, he's not denying it. He's like, oh, they're enlisting women now. Or remember when she walked up, they're enlisting women in the army now. She's like, I'm Brienne of Tarth, blah 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 blah. She explains some shit. It's I was like, he's like, all right, get it over with. Then.
Yeah. She's told that story a gazillion times, right? But I do love her. I mean, she's probably one of my top 10 favorite characters.
Top 10. Holy
There's a lot of great characters, though. I can appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, just because her loyalty is so admirable, right? And she's I don't know, man.
Yeah, you're not going to give it up to her because she's a woman, because a lot of women identify with this character.
No. At this thing, I mean, woman or not, I mean, she's loyal, right? Yeah. There are a lot of women who aren't, right? And there are a lot of men who aren't.
Key question.
Here's the thing. She, as awesome of a character as she is, I would say I enjoy Cersei more than her, though, to your point. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but as a villain, nobody's a better villain than Cersei. Yeah. I am yet to see a better female villain than Cersei.
There was a time where she was my favorite character on the show.
Just for being such a whole. Yeah. I mean, I think if you look up the word cunt, it was invented for her. No word of a lie. She is.
You said that in this episode.
I did say that.
She is. I don't care about using that word. A lot of people do, and I get it, right? It is a harsh word, but I mean, well deserved.
Well, no, he straight up said that he doesn't like to say it, but for her, it's well deserved.
For certain people, yeah.
But her character definitely deserves that.
Absolutely.
She's queen of she's not just a cunt, she's queen of them.
And as
horrible.
I think the nastiest parts of her are still to come. honestly. Like, I think she's gonna get a lot worse.
Oh yeah, she's getting a lot nastier.
I kind of feel that though.
Well, at the end,
Like
well, I
revenge.
guess what I won't like. Let's
Yeah,
just
we'll get to
like
it.
we'll
Let's
get to it. I'll
keep going.
explain
Let's see.
how this will foreshadow that. How
Yeah.
Yeah.
While this is happening elsewhere, Ramsey finishes off the few remaining Baratheon soldiers and heads back to Winterfell. This is JT's boy now, Ramsey Bolton. I mean, listen, he fucking survived this battle.
Another snow. Yeah.
I know. Jay is a big fan of Ramsey. I don't know why, but
see, so he's the
love
first
the
one.
bastards.
He's the first one that redeems himself for me.
Ramsey.
Oh no, not Ramsey. I thought you guys were talking. You're
No.
not talking about the guy with the chopped off penis.
No,
no. You're talking about the evil guy. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. He gets what's.
yeah,
He's an
Ramsey.
asshole. He's
Yeah.
horrible. He's like second
I
worst,
wanna go have a coffee
second
with
worst villain in my vision. Like that man.
The
There
job.
is. Oh.
He did a great
Man.
job though, man. That's a great
You know,
character,
I've
man.
seen
I
him in
like
a
it.
few other things, and he's a fantastic actor. That guy.
Joffrey?
No, not Joffrey.
Oh, Ramsey.
Ramsey.
Yeah,
I've
Ramsey,
seen him in a
yeah.
couple of other things, and
Oh,
he's a
I've
pretty good actor.
He was in this show called Misfits, where it's like a British show where they're like,
Yeah, I didn't see Misfits. I
That's
did
good.
watch one recently. It was like he played a serial killer.
okay, yeah,
But it
perfect.
was a very different, but it was a very different character, like villain than Game of Thrones,
Yeah,
right?
he's a good actor. I've seen him.
He's a very good actor. But holy shit, is he good at being bad too?
Yes.
Like, and that's the thing about this show. You got a whole bunch of freaking actors that haven't done much or have done work, but are not big names.
No,
And the casting, whoever the casting director was for this show, is a brilliant casting director
yeah, they did a good job.
because they got a bunch of like people who weren't big names to make the biggest show of all time. It's literally the most watched TV series of all time.
I think Stranger Things recently may have beat that. Actually.
No, I
No?
looked at it
On
on this.
On Netflix though, but that's different.
Oh, on Netflix. Yeah. But no. We're talking about of all time.
Okay, interesting. Okay,
Yeah. Game of Thrones. More people have watched Game of Thrones than Stranger Things.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah. I mean, the character, everything about it. The casting director, brilliant, right? Because I mean, like, where do you like
Yeah, good job.
from Pedro Pascal, right? To like, that you've become like number one fanboy crushing on him, JT. Like,
He was upset when he died. It was too soon.
yeah, I was like, no, not Pedro,
I didn't even get to know
Pedro.
him. I didn't even get to know him, man. I didn't feel like I can go for a coffee yet with him.
So this next scene here,
Yeah.
desperately Sansa is desperately running across the ramparts here. Sansa is stopped by Miranda and Reek. Miranda threatens Sansa with a bow. Of course, Miranda being his love interest there, Ramsey. Sansa.
Yeah, his side chick.
Yeah, threatens Sansa with a bow, but Sansa, weary and realizing she can't escape a shot from a bow, tells her to kill her while there is still part of the real her left. Miranda tells Sansa that Ramsey needs her to have an heir and for nothing more afterward. But says Ramsey does not need all of Sansa in one piece to accomplish that. Sansa braces herself for the worst as Miranda tenses her bow. However, Theon finally breaks the Bolton's hold on him and causes Miranda to misfire. He grabs and hurls Miranda over the side, and Miranda screams as she hurtles to her death, being killed instantly upon impact with the stone floor of the courtyard far below.
One less cunt in this
That
world.
was crazy.
I'm just glad that he finally stepped up in this.
Yeah,
I think
so do I. So am I.
wouldn't have been able to muster the strength if Ramsey was there in that moment. But since it was her, he was like, okay, finally fucking Reek, aka Theon, found it upon himself to actually muster the strength to actually take this chick out right at this moment. So I was happy for that. And then Sansa and Theon run, but with Ramsey just returning from the battle, they find themselves with nowhere to go. Hoping to land in deep snow and survive the long fall, the two of them grasp their hands together and jump off the side into the water. Fucking crazy.
I finally had gruesome balls.
So I mean, like, yeah, no pun intended there, but I mean, you also like, so you have to understand. I think for those who are like saying, yeah, you finally have to grow some balls.
you have to understand when you're under that much abuse
Yeah,
from
sure.
somebody else, you have nothing. The only emotion you have is fear. That's the only one that thrives in you. You fear everything. And it doesn't matter how much you love the other person that's also being abused by your abuser,
Mhm.
you can't, you're so fearful of that human that you can't possibly defend that, right?
You're
Because let's be honest, he could have fucking helped her so many fucking times and instead he didn't, right? And you can't even blame him because you have to understand how abuse works, right? And that's what this motherfucker
yeah.
did to him, right? Like consistently made sure to create nothing but fear. That's
It's
the only emotion that he had
yeah, it's
left
easier
was
said than
fear.
done. Absolutely. Yeah, it's easier said. I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of know what he kind of went through from what they showed us, but you can't, you're right, understand that unless you've been through something similar, right?
Right. So I mean, like when I think he finally, when Sansa went into that castle, right? The other emotions that he had before he was so abused kind of started slowly coming back, right? Although fear still ruled him, right? He slowly started remembering, no, she was like my sister, how can I let this happen, right? And it was a battle within himself. Do I have what anything else left in me to save her, right? Or don't I? And that's kind of like what he struggled with this entire fucking season, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was never
Like
a fan of this guy anyways,
I
but
wasn't either, but I understood him,
yeah.
right? And I understood, like, like the ragging on, oh, he's such a wimp. No, man. You have no idea what it's like to be ruled with that much fear. Like when you have an abuser like that, continuously just
They
killing
cut your
you.
balls off too. You kind of lose
Yeah,
your
I mean, like you're
testosterone.
terrified. You're terrified. Like this guy went through some of the worst abuse ever in this show. I mean, a lot of people were abused in this show and raped and whatnot, but this guy went through it, man. He just fucking went through it really, really bad. I mean, like,
They both are at
He's the
this
man.
point,
I mean,
right?
yeah,
Ramsey's the man.
Yeah, him and Sansa are feeling it, at least from Ramsey at this point in time, right? But like,
right. But
yeah, he deserves some of it though. Like he did do a lot.
yeah,
He did some fucked up shit too.
he did.
He was a traitor to a lot of people that were close to him, but not to this degree. I agree. I mean,
No, not to this degree.
it was sad
Not the,
in this state, but well, we'll see
yeah,
what happens with them moving forward.
yeah,
So this next scene, we got Sir Meryn Trant here. He's looking upon three young girls in the Bravosi brothel, as we seen him last episode. The young girls that he was asking be sent to him. Of the three girls, two begin to cry and scream when they are whipped by him. However, the last girl has no reaction. He sends the two weak girls away and punches the last one in the stomach. However, the last girl is revealed to be Arya Stark, wearing the face mask of Gita, the sickly girl who was earlier poisoned by Arya in the House of Black and White. After removing her face mask, Arya pulls out a knife and stabs Meryn in both eyes and chest repeatedly and puts a gag in his mouth to silence his cries. She then reveals her identity and reminds Meryn of how he killed her dance master, Syrio Forel, which was like at the end, I think, of the first season, before calling him no one and slitting his throat. It was either the first season or the second season, but it was the guy, that the water dancer teacher that her father set up for her. So yeah, she wouldn't have been in King's Landing by that time. So it was the end of the season that they killed him. So yeah, it was all the way back then. She actually finally got revenge. He was one of the names on her list of people that she wanted to kill. Jay, were you thrown off?
The first one.
Surprised by this moment, or did you know it was going to be her in this scene because of the way they set it up last episode?
I kind of had a sort of inkling, but I don't know if I was 100% convinced it was going to be her at the end of it. But once I seen it, it kind of made sense in that sense. But yeah, so it was kind of cool to see that. That was probably the best CGI I've seen so far in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So looking back, I'll be honest, guys. After this season, I wanted Arya to be the queen of the the thrones, right?
The world.
Yeah, I really thought, oh my god, I love this girl. I love this girl so much. She's getting all this revenge. But then my thing changed, right? But up until this point, I was rooting for this girl so much.
Sure.
So much. And like I'm glad I'm happy the story went the way it went for her in
Sure.
this whole entire thing, because she is one of my favorite characters. I think she's top 5
Great
of my favorite characters.
Yeah, great character. She was a big fan favorite too. But I mean, to your point, I think that that was never that character though, wanting to become the queen. It was her sister.
No, but because she didn't want to become the queen is why I thought she should be the queen,
Yeah, sure.
right? Because everybody's fighting for it,
Yeah.
right? And nobody deserves it. These people that are fighting for it, nobody fucking deserves it,
Right.
right? But she had that fairness in her, that good heart in her, and that, no, man, fair is fair.
That Stark in her.
Yeah, she's got that Stark in her. And out of everybody, I felt like even though she didn't want it, she deserved it, right? But hey, how it ended up for her is how it was supposed to, and it was fucking fantastic. And I love her character. I loved watching her grow in this season.
All right. I'm gonna cut you off there. That's enough of that.
And that was it. Yeah, sorry.
Don't say anything. You can't.
Yeah, up until she died.
Yeah, that's right. Arya then returns to the House of Black and White and returns the face that she used to hide her identity. And of course, as you know, Jaqen H'ghar there, previous to this, he wanted her to use that method to kill that Thin Man. But she did not. She kind of took her personal vendetta storyline into this to use this skill that she's been learning towards that instead, despite him wanting her to leave Arya Stark, like that identity, that because she's now no one alone, which I kind of wanted to explain, to even Jay, maybe if that was, lost on you, because I thought that this storyline was a little weird and kind of odd to begin with, even the first time I watched it, right? But I think that's essentially why what happens here, basically, I think happens. Then Jaqen H'ghar appears and his assistant there, and they say that Meryn's life was not hers to take and that a debt must be paid. Their assistant there grabs Arya as Jaqen pulls out a vial, presumably containing some kind of poison. However, he drinks the poison himself and collapses, with Arya screaming for him to stay alive. She states that he was her friend and hears Jaqen's voice behind her say that he was no one. She turns around to see that the waif, the assistant there, now has Jaqen's face. Arya asks who the person on the floor with Jaqen's face is then. And him in that body says that he is no one. Arya begins to remove multiple faces from the person on the floor until she sees her own.
Yeah.
Then begins to lose her sight as her eyes turn opaque white and screams for help. What the fuck, AJ? What the hell happened here at the end? Like, this is
I don't know, man. This is tripping me out. This was a little bit trippy. They just kept fucking pulling faces off. I don't know, man. I really have no idea what's going on with this fucking storyline. I don't know what the hell these guys are. I know they have many faces, and it was kind of cool how they set it up where they showed it where she goes to put the mask back, like it was like she had put the face on it. But I mean, how, like, it just turned her face into that like whole person. It was just a trip. I don't understand if it's magic. I don't understand if it's some sort of fucking voodoo religion. I don't know, man, what's going on.
So the way I see this whole part of Game of Thrones of Arya like going into this whole maskless thing and training to be no one, right, is kind of Karate Kiddish, like the whole wax on, wax off thing. You got to learn how to wash the dead bodies. And no, JT, they did not fuck them. Like, because I saw that on the other episode. Like, come on, man. Seriously, that's where your head fucking goes.
What they were
Necrophilia. You too much killer content with me, man.
Of course, that brings it from, it's perverted to begin with, I think. So, yeah.
I think that was like the whole point of it. Yeah, shame. Now you know why I want the bell bad. It's just fitting for JT.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
Like,
Thank you.
I think it was just a lot of like Karate Kiddish. I have to say that it was one of my least favorite parts of this whole.
It's not my favorite storyline either.
No.
because it gets really weird and it's such a diversion from it's like
from everything else.
with Arya especially though. It's such
Yeah.
a weird storyline that they all of a sudden go into, right, from what was set up, what was previous to this, right? So yeah, I agree with you. It wasn't my favorite either, but it is weird. It is weird. I'll give it that. It is a weird, interesting storyline that you didn't see coming, right? Which I think
that I thought should have had more to it.
Yeah. Which again, we didn't see Bran at all this season for anybody keeping count out there. We didn't.
No Bran.
And so, which is again,
they mentioned his name.
Yeah, which is okay with me because it wasn't my favorite storyline. It was my least favorite storyline, and I wonder if that's played a part going into the season. But I just think they had so much to cover with everybody else that other stuff was just like, well, we're gonna focus on this later, which they do.
Yeah.
But anyways, but yeah, here we go. This is this next scene moving on here. We got Jamie, Bronn, Myrcella, and Trystane say their farewells to the Martells to return to King's Landing. Upon saying goodbye, Illyria Sand kisses Myrcella on the lips, while Tyene Sand flirts with Bronn. Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
Hilarious. I have a good girl back, a good potential wife waiting for me. She's like, you have a good girl, but you want the bad one, or something like that, right?
What do you say?
He's so not. They're both. You know what? Those two should have ended up together because they're perfect for each other, right?
I like them flirting with each other.
I do too. I really like them flirting with each other. But this whole scene, and I guess we'll get to it, was foreshadowed as well in the beginning of this season.
It was. She even in the last episode where she kind of went to Jamie and she spoke to him, while forgiving him, let's say, like kind of for what had happened. She still seems spiteful even in that moment towards him, right? I mean, she says the whole thing about like they want to understand, who you love, everything. And it's again, as we've come to learn, whenever you get a nice moment, which was the scene we're about to get into right now, something bad happens directly after, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of backstabbing in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
shame.
There you go.
Shame.
I was like, how did you pull that off?
It's gonna be a soundbite now on Late Night Chat. I'll import.
Yes, it has to be. It has to be. It has to be.
There's a whole hour loop of an audio bite on YouTube that you just keep repeating it, so you can always.
Oh, this is awesome!
All right, so what we're gonna play that up was whenever JT says something perverted in this episode, we'll continue
Shame.
that. Right?
I just, you know what? I'm still gonna look for a bell that can do that because it's just better with the whole bell.
Yeah.
Shame.
So aboard the ship, Myrcella and Jamie talk about Cersei. Jamie begins to come clean to Myrcella, awkwardly telling her that we cannot choose who we love. Essentially, the speech that he was just given by Illyria in the last episode there. Myrcella then reveals that she knows that Jamie is her real father and that she is glad that he is. And the two embrace. They have a nice little moment.
Seconds nice, man.
Later, however, Myrcella's expression changes. The smile fades on her face and her nose starts to bleed. She collapses in Jamie's arms. Back in Dorne, Illyria wipes the blood from her nose and takes the antidote for the poison coated on her lips. She kills. And once again, that fortune comes closer to the truth, to the truth of all her kids dying. She has one kid left at this point for anyone keeping count out there. Tommen is the only kid of hers that is still alive, going all the way back to that fortune.
For what we know so far.
However, okay, like for someone who's a narcissist like Cersei, she made sure to take no accountability for all three of her children's deaths, because guess what? All of them are reflections of her actions.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. You're right. And then she points her finger at everybody else around her.
Right. And she'll blame everybody else around her for her children dying when she is responsible for starting these wars. You don't expect people to do retaliation?
Yeah.
Illyria took a fucking chance there when she kissed her, because I mean, fuck, bro, she could have died too. I know she had the antidote. How long does it? What if they took them both the same time? Like, what if she just passed out all of a sudden? Would her sisters come to the rescue, or the girls come to the rescue, or
whatever? I thought
it was a trip.
Speaking of Illyria, there, Jay, what do you think her her fate is going to be now that she's once again went back on her basically Oberyn's brother's ruling to not fuck around with this whole situation. Right now, Trystane.
It's gonna run her over with a wheelchair. I have no idea, bro.
Remember, he said, I believe in second chances, but not third. He said that
Yeah.
third chance. He said that to her in that final moment, and then she went up, made up to Jamie apparently, or the best that she could through gritted teeth, and then she proceeded to do this still, right? And she thinks that maybe it wouldn't come back to her. I don't know.
We'll see what happens, man. We'll see if it comes back to haunt her. We don't know, man. I mean, the villains seem to survive, so we're good.
With Daenerys gone, her council is unsure how they should continue. As we saw last episode, she flew away on Drogon, the dragon there, last episode at the end. Tyrion addresses both Jorah and Dario's feelings for her, understanding all too well.
That's his name.
Yeah, understanding all too well how one could love the wrong woman. The three argue about Jorah's betrayal, but they will not make any judgments without Daenerys first. Drogon was seen taking her north, and that is where they need to search for their queen. Grey Worm, still recovering from his injuries, offers to go with Jorah and Daario, as does Tyrion. Daario firmly nixes both ideas. Grey Worm is needed to command the Unsullied in keeping the city under control, while Tyrion is the only one of them to have actual political experience. Daario expresses confidence that with Missandei's help, the pair of them should be able to keep Meereen under control until they return with Daenerys. What do you think of this development in this episode? Pretty interesting stuff with Tyrion's new kind of standing by the end here.
His new role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good spot for him. I think this is where he should be, right? Doing something like this, right?
So. He's talking Valerian, so it's pretty cool, man. I was tripping me out. I didn't think he knew. I mean,
Dothraki.
Yeah, he is a Lanit.
Was it Dothraki he was speaking or
Valerian.
Valerian? Oh, Valerian, yeah.
Because
with
he's
the Unsullied.
the Valerian thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Because he says, "Oh, my Valerian is a little rusty," and he says,
"It's not rusty nostril or something."
Yeah, nasally, yeah.
Let's just say rusty, but he says nostril. My Valerian is nostril. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
and then
she corrected him.
Corrects him. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But no, I was surprised to see him talking. I mean, obviously, it's just a fucking.
Guys, remind me because I forgot how the other seasons go. Is this the first time that there's a character that was originally with another family and now has joined forces with another? Because that's going to happen a lot, like Nico mentioned, right? I think this is the first example of it.
I mean,
case?
yeah, I think the Daenerys has always been kind of like that with people stopping in and joining her, like.
But main character?
No, not main characters.
Right. This is the main character, Tyrion, right? Like, I mean.
So you're talking about Lannister and.
Obviously, I mean, we're seeing that not really work out very well, but then we also, I guess, had the Wildlings trying to join the Night.
Yeah, the Wildlings too, right?
But you're right. The first time a main character, I feel like, has completely switched up like he has.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, I think you're right.
The best Lannister hunter.
Yeah.
Or killer or whatever it is. Yeah.
I mean, say what you will. I'm with Nico where like Tyrion is one of my top 3 favorite characters.
He's probably my favorite.
Yeah. I love the writing for him. The comedy was fantastic. Like really broke up the edges. I love how they made him so smart.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the first times see
so small, but yet so big.
Right, but it's one of the times you see a little person have such a heroic role.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I don't think it's been done since Willow.
Willow. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I agree. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Normally, like, I mean, I hate to say this, but the truth be told, many movies that use little people, they're like not stars or main characters.
Warwick Davis is an exception from back in the day for Willow, for sure.
Yeah.
Went on to become fucking Leprechaun in the Leprechaun movies. Shout out to him for those films, though.
Yeah.
You know, he was an Ewok, but like, basically.
But I mean, like the good guy, like portraying them as a good, like as a a fighter and like intelligent, right?
Yeah, well, fuck, he won like a few awards for this show, so absolutely
well deserving. He's a fantastic actor.
Absolutely,
right? And yes, he deserves all those accolades. So I hope there's more for that for the little people in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, you would think so, but they've just taken them out of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So
Yeah,
we won't
man.
get into
Like,
all that.
yeah, we won't get into that. Like, yeah, that's a different episode. That's a different
That's
late night
something for
chat
late night
episode.
chat. Yeah,
Yeah,
holy shit.
yeah. That's something for late night chat.
I have to
Yeah.
ask Lewis next week
Yeah, you go
when I'm on with him.
It's pretty
Uh,
going on with that.
it-
But anyways,
Yeah.
as Tyrion watches Dario and Jorah depart the city, Varys calmly walks up to Tyrion, teasing Tyrion about abandoning him in Volantis. He is pleased to see Tyrion already settling into a role that suits him. He reminds Tyrion that he has experience running a city full of people trying to kill each other, and implies that he and his little birds are there to help. I fucking love that they reunited in this scene finally. Like, I was like, oh
Varys.
man. I mean, he needs his main man there, Varys, beside
Yeah.
him, to help him, like, in this whole situation, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I love how coy he was, how they were joking around. Oh, if only you knew somebody that knew how to assist you in these type of things.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, if only. He's like, I missed you, my friend. He's like, as did I.
Yeah, they're just like tiptoeing around everything. The way they're saying it, they're not implicating anything. They're not, they're just, but they're kind of putting it in your head, but they're not, and in the words that they're using. It's so funny.
I've said it before. Outside of Bronn and Tyrion, this is my favorite. Duo is these two.
Duo. Yeah.
Varys and Tyrion are a threat, honestly. Like, together, they really, they're smart,
Very
absolutely cunning, very cunning, know how to play the game. You know what I mean? Like, and Varys is.
It's because both of them have always been great observers and underestimated.
Well, Varys have said as such.
Yeah.
Before about them. That's why they get along. Those two, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? So,
And that's why it makes them so powerful and smart, because they know what the other stupid fucking people who are blinded by the chair of thrones over there, that's all they see when they see the bigger picture, right?
that's the big difference between Varys and Baelish, is that Baelish eyes the power and the throne, and Varys just cares about the future of the city. You know what I mean? Like, Varys actually, or he's just
He
hiding
wants
it.
to make it through the day. Yeah.
Fuck Baelish.
Next up here, we got a very quick scene. Meanwhile, Daenerys finds herself far away from Meereen, atop an impressive hill in a sea of green grass. Drogon is still recovering from the wounds he received from the arena, and he's uninterested in flying back. Unfortunately, he's also not interested in finding them any food. Daenerys wanders away to find something for them, but is startled to see a trio of Dothraki blood riders emerge. Within minutes, an entire group has her surrounded. Understanding what might happen to her, she quickly removes a ring to the fake marriage, like with the marriage that she was doing out of politics and Meereen, and drops it in the grass, determined to leave a trail, because of course, that used to be their queen after what happened with her husband dying of the Dothraki. But then they had a falling out with the Dothraki themselves, right? Because ruthless for them to follow her at the time. Like, they just kind of left them back in that other city, right, where they robbed everybody, right? I remember that one with the vaults where they kept everybody in they locked that guy in the fucking vault or whatever. I think that's the last time that we see the Dothraki.
The Dothraki,
that's right. So yeah,
It tripped me out because when I seen him, I thought, I was like, but then they had that one guy that, when they showed him from the back, it kind of reminded me of fucking Jason Momoa over there, fucking from the first season. So it's kind of like, okay, it gives you that reminder hint that these guys are the Dothraki, right? Because I wasn't 100% sure right away, but then I thought they were all fucking gone. Yeah.
It's been a while, but I guess we'll more on that in the next episode. Not much to say there, I think, on that one, but and then here, this next scene, of course.
Shame.
All right, here we go.
Shame.
Septa Unella enters Cersei's cell and orders her to confess. Finally giving in, Cersei is brought before the High Sparrow to confess her sins. She confesses her adultery with Sir Lancel, but denies her incestuous relationship with her brother Jaime. Cersei begs to be allowed to go to the Red Keep to see her son Tommen. The High Sparrow grants her request, but says that there will still be a trial to ascertain the truth behind the other charges that she still denies: incest and regicide. Cersei is brought to a cell where she is then stripped naked and roughly washed before her hair is quickly cut short. What do you think of this the first time around seeing this, Jay? Were you shocked by this? Because I know we got obviously some of Leslie's thoughts at the start of the episode. What did you think of this scene? Were you shocked that they kind of did this to Cersei in this episode? Like what?
Well, I kind of, like I was telling Leslie, I kind of said it to her the other day in a sense that it's almost like from the name of the episode, you knew somebody was going to use that Mother's Mercy thing, that kind of rule, that they had there, that High Sparrow and all those guys had. So I was trying to figure and I kind of guessed it would have been her, because she's the one that's in there not confessing and drinking water off the ground and shit like that. So I had a feeling it had to be her, but I didn't know, she was going to tell a bunch of shit and then not end up saying anything about, she's still denying the whole thing, right? Like it basically, in a sense, that there's still parts she's leaving out. And it's funny because, he really already knows, right? And there's people that and I didn't think there was going to be this trial, like a trial afterwards too, right? Because they still got to have a trial. This is just the we're going to make you look like a little fucking you're going to make you look like shit. Yeah. Is that what it is? Like, what does atonement mean? Like,
it means that you're basically going.
It's your punishment.
Yeah.
You ever go to confession?
Yeah.
As a Catholic,
when
you were kids,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you have to atone for your sins, right? So you have to feel sorry for your sins, and then after confession, the priest tells you to do, for your sins, you got to do like 5 Hail Marys, 6 Our Fathers, whatever. That's your atonement, right? So that's your punishment.
But hers was, cutting her hair off and not walking her through the fucking town.
Because the vanity, right? Her vanity, her.
Yeah. Not only that, I think
they're
making her give in to their way of doing things, essentially.
Yeah.
Giving herself up. That was the whole hesitation leading up to this, was that they wanted her to not only confess her sins, but also, I think, because now she's gonna. They expect her to follow the ways of the church, essentially, in a sense, right? Because she's now cleansing herself of basically what has occurred by admitting these things that she's done, right? But you're right. They still say that she has to stand trial to confess for other sins that she might be guilty of committing as well, right? This was only the first in that process, right? But before
I wondered what you guys thought about this emotion part. She was more upset in this scene and coming up, and the way she was crying and and all that crap, more than when her fucking kid died. I don't know. I you don't really see her that emotional through the.
Keep in mind,
seasons.
she doesn't know that her daughter's died yet either.
No, she just knows that when she goes back home, her old man's dead, and who's gonna fucking kind of help her out. And she I guess her brother, was it her brother or uncle's there? Her uncle, right?
Uncle. Yeah.
So it should be interesting when we see what happens on that end after. So
but then she is brought outside, where she is forced to walk naked through the streets of King's Landing, from the Great Sept of Baelor to the Red Keep as punishment. She is accompanied by Septa Unella, who repeats the word shame and 3 times and rings a bell every few steps.
Shame. Shame.
And 6 members of the Faith Militant. Cersei performs her walk of atonement amidst the leering crowds, who immediately begin pelting her with filth, which is pretty much shit balls at one point. I think she's
I was thinking, are they throwing her shit at her? What the fuck, man? They're not hitting the nun.
Because you got to remember, Jay, these are the fucking people that they ignore, the poorest of the fucking poor, all the way down to Flea Bottom, where she walked right at the end, which they've referred to before, Flea Bottom in this thing, which is basically the slums, essentially, of King's Landing, where the poorest of the poor are there. And this is their one opportunity to basically throw shit at her. You know what I mean? Yep. Never be caught dead down there otherwise, right? That's the whole thing with them ignoring the common folk here of this King's Landing, and them and basically not providing to their people, right?
Yeah, because they were trying to attack her, and the guards in the front were kind of keeping her off. But I'm wondering, how does the nun not get shit on her? The whole time, if you look, she kind of doesn't look so bad. She's pretty clean compared to the way they got good aim back then.
Remember, she brought this whole religious aspect in to try and fuck over her new daughter-in-law because she's so fucking
Yeah.
power hungry, right? And it
Yeah.
bit her in the motherfucking ass so good,
Yeah, we've
right?
talked about that before, how basically this is of her own doing and that it backfired.
It
Yeah.
is. It backfired on her ass, and I'm glad it did in the most
So
beautiful way.
But basically, yeah, they're pelting her with filth and vicious insults such as cunt and brotherfucker. With bloody, Cersei eventually makes it to the Red Keep and bursts into tears. Upon entering the gates, Cersei finds her uncle, Kevin Lannister, Grand Maester Pycelle, and Qyburn waiting for her. Qyburn attempts to comfort her by covering her body with a cloak. Heavy footsteps are heard, and Qyburn, which took a whole fucking season to introduce. I don't remember it taking this fucking long, but this is crazy. He introduces his Frankenstein's monster here, Cersei, to the newest member of the Kingsguard, an
Yeah,
8-foot
It's
tall
crazy.
man in golden armor, who he says has sworn a vow of silence until all their foes are defeated. And he suggests Cersei go inside where he can attend to her feet, which are badly injured, and the huge knight lifts her up and carries her away as her expression already begins to harden. I guess by the knowledge that she now has this fucking beast of a man to possibly like help her like get vengeance for what has now just occurred. But of course, we all know that is the Mountain, who fucking was dead almost like fucking a whole season ago.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that until that 100%.
That's Mountain. That's the Mountain, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
I
I figured.
whole fucking time, remember? In this like weird laboratory of like horror.
Okay, yeah, right. They were working on him, right? I remember they were
Yeah.
working on him because I didn't think he was dead, and then I was wondering, and then I'm thinking, okay, I guess I'll find out more. But you
Because
know,
Qyburn's like a mad scientist. Like he fucks around
yeah,
like so like the fact that this guy like he was on death's door, the Mountain, at the end after
Yeah.
the Qyburn fight. Like he was as good as dead, right? If they didn't get
that
get him.
poison too and shit, right?
Yes. But now you can like the gross discoloration, like underneath, like you don't even know what's under there because all you see is
No.
now. Like it looks like he's
Yeah.
like a undead head is under there almost, right? Like it's all
Looking
like
like Jason Voorhees over there.
yeah, Jason, exactly. But Leslie, any last thoughts on this scene? The of course one of the best scenes in all of Game of Thrones.
So this is where, as happy as I was for that scene of the whole shame thing, I got angry that there were still people on her side when her uncle was like coddling her, and like I was like, oh fuck, you know, this bitch isn't
Yeah.
done yet. This serves nothing. Everything that they just did to her means
She's a
jack
Lannister.
fucking shit.
Yeah, at the end
Because
of the
you still have fucking allies now, and now she's got, you know, big, you know, guy who like literally is there to be by her
Freaking
side,
nature.
and his only purpose is to kill her enemies. Like, come on.
No, I know, but it was nice to see her get her comeuppance to a degree in this moment. Like, absolutely, you're right. Like, she still lived to see another day, absolutely, and like from her position of power, she still has some in that regard. But of course, because she is still royalty, but you know, this was a good moment. This was a moment.
It was until that happened, and then I got upset again.
I like watching her get her hair cut off. Really, man, that looked like it hurt, man. And pulling it, just hitting it with one slice, like the poor, they get, you know, imagine you had to do that for a scene.
Yeah, her head was bleeding after that because they were because the way they were shaving it off was very crude. Like it was like with a fucking like a cleaver.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah, that's why
Through the hair. Holy fuck, man! I wonder if she had to do that for the show, or if she shaved it beforehand, or I don't know, man. It's just weird.
Actually, she normally does have short hair, like that.
Yeah, I seen it in her IMDb thing.
I remember I made a comment to Christine while watching the show at some point, and she made me feel real stupid because I'm like, oh man, she had such beautiful hair. Why'd she cut it for this, right? And then she's like, that's a wig, you idiot. I was like, oh. Because I didn't know, like, because like I thought it was a really good. Because she's like, you think like, look at how long she's like and luscious her hair is. Do you think that's her actual hair? Like, no, like I guess not. I don't know. Like,
man. Yeah, we don't know that shit.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't fucking know. I was just like, you know, I remember she told me that. She's like, that's a wig. And I was like, oh. I still remember that. Like, that was back then. I was like, oh, man, I love her hair. And then I got rid of her hair.
I did a shave like that on my head with one of those blades. It's pretty cool.
And just like I said, as I mentioned earlier, just a quick little tidbit about this scene. The body double who performed it, her name was actress Rebecca Van Cleve. who worked closely with Lena Headey on the gripping walk in Sunday's season 5 finale. According to this is the Entertainment Weekly when they revealed this. She performed nude while Headey wore a simple beige suit, essentially, and then the show's visual effects team then merged the performances together, combining her progression of facial emotions during Cersei's punishing hike to the Red Keep and Van Cleve's physical movement echoing her body language in order to create the seamless illusion that she was completely bare for the sequence. And according to Van Cleve, she says it was one of the scariest, most wonderful, most gratifying experiences I could have imagined. I never in a million years would have thought I would be in Dubrovnik. I guess that's where they filmed this. I don't know where that is. Surrounded by hundreds of extras and crew members.
It's like Poland.
Throwing food at me, but it was amazing. So they actually really did throw shit at her.
Yeah.
More than 1,000 actresses applied for the role of her double for the season's climactic sequence where proud Cersei Lannister is stripped and forced to march. Yeah. And then Lena Headey said she chose not to be nude for the 6-minute sequence for several reasons, among them that she wanted to focus on the emotions in her performance. She also opted out of the casting process for her double, saying, I was like, listen, guys, she happens to have a beautiful body, but I don't do casting. If somebody is brave enough to do this, I applaud it. So that's a little like kind of, a little tidbit there about how they kind of created this scene, because I know at the time, a lot of people were just shocked by the fact that she actually did this, right?
Yeah, but they did such a fantastic fucking job.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it is one of my favorite scenes. It's top 5 for me, if not top 3 in the whole scene.
Yeah, but I just had to come for this one because this is like the one time that Game of Thrones cared about my feelings. That was it.
Last scene.
Well put.
Huh?
Well put.
That's it. It's the one time Game of Thrones cared about my feelings.
We're not over the episode. This episode's not over yet. So
No, but that scene,
Yeah.
scene was the one time Game of Thrones cared about my feelings.
I was gonna say. Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
On that one, because you're right. That is the reason you wanted to come on this episode.
Yeah.
And discuss that with us. But here we go. Jay's favorite scene. Davos, having returned to Castle Black at Stannis' orders, urges Jon to convince the wildlings for aid. Davos still journeying there this whole time, this episode, because that's where we left him, as Stannis made him go away because he could burn Shireen that way last episode because he knew he would stop her, right? Jon refuses him, saying that they wouldn't aid with Stannis and that this is not their fight, because the Night's Watch does not pick sides in this type of stuff. Both of them are shocked to see a speechless and despondent Melisandre then return to the wall. Sir Davos pressures her for news, specifically asking about Shireen, but Melisandre remains silent, and Davos gets the idea that live the experience. He doesn't know the details because she doesn't tell him in this moment, but the way that she kind of shuts up, he's just like, no. He's just like, and he's like, and
look.
Yeah, because he was the only one that really cared for her, quite honestly.
He loved that little girl like she was his own granddaughter.
Well, he just lost his son.
How to read.
War of the Blackwater that they got in.
Right.
He lost his son during that battle. And that was what he said to Shireen, was the fact that she taught him to read, and his son was always urging him to learn, and he actually learned because of her. So he got really emotional with her prior to them leaving, and he made her that little that carving that he did, right? So
the little it a little horse? I can't remember.
I think it was.
Yeah.
He had asked him to make her another piece to join that.
A mare, like the male or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the female.
That stuff.
Yeah.
After seeing the empty look in her eyes, Davos lets her leave. That night, Jon is reading messages when his steward Ollie tells him that a wildling knows of the whereabouts of his long-missing uncle. Jon Snow quickly rushes with Thorin to a gathered group of watchmen, only to see basically like a wooden thing that says traitor on it. Basically, he turns around to find his brothers staring him down. Thorin makes the first move and stabs the Lord Commander for the watch, Thorin says, as well as the others, for a total of 6
little bitch.
A total of 6 people when it's all said and done, as they close in and continue stabbing him. One after another, Jon Snow is betrayed. For the watch. Finally, the tearful Ollie approaches last, the young king. After a moment of pause, Jon gasps Ollie before Ollie delivers the final blow, repeating the pledge. The brothers leave Jon to die alone in the snow.
I hope they fucking hang Ollie for some reason, man, and eat him. Straight up. I hate that kid, man. I hope it
Remember,
falls off the
Ollie is
cliff
also
in the
the
next
one
show.
that shot his lover,
Yes,
the
yes.
Wildlings. What's her name?
That's what I mean. I hope he falls off the fucking wall.
Egret. He's the one that shot Egret.
Yeah, Ingrid. Yeah, Ingrid.
Yeah. So, but you know,
Yeah, I mean, I understand his family died, right? From the Wildlings, I get it. But you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to make some mistakes to fucking go ahead to get better, to make stuff better. Like John said last episode, fucking.
but it's so hard to change. You know what I mean? The culture of like, you know what I mean? Like, look at what goes on in the world. It's so hard to change people's way of thinking when it comes to shit like this, right?
Especially
But
when you're
just when
that
they
young.
made you feel good, bro. The
Yeah.
episode, you know, Cersei got her fucking hair cut off and she's walking down and I'm
But they did it
laughing.
That's
And
why
then
they
I look and there's still that much left to watch. And
that's
I'm
why
like,
they did it
what
that
the
way.
fuck is gonna happen now?
Yeah,
I'm
you're
so
clearly
mad.
Game of Thrones doesn't give two shits about your feelings, JT.
I am so
but-
fucking upset, bro. This is the fucking, you know, you did a good job, honestly, bro. You did a good job of redirecting me and getting close to it too, especially near this last episode here, because you even said that it's so fun to watch me just think if John's gonna die or not like that, and then bang, fucking next episode he dies.
I
And
was
2 episodes later.
I was really upset by this, but I will say this, Jay, because when this was one of those appointment watching TV shows back in the day. That's one of the last ones that existed where people would go out and talk, like water cooler shows where people would go and talk about it the next day and all the theories, everything else. When this happened, there was many theories out there of ways they thought that he would somehow come back the next season. So I did want to give you some hope in these final moments. I'm not going to say that whether or not that happens or if that's even a thing, but the way they ended it, there were so many people convinced that this was not the end of Jon Snow.
Nobody could accept this death.
No
So you're
one-
not the only one. You're not the only one who
Rob
feels
West-
like this was the worst.
Were they angry
death
on like
ever.
the news?
Everybody was angry about it. Everybody was
had to
angry
wait
about this.
an entire fucking year to see whether or not this was actually the case.
Yeah, if any of the conspiracy theories were real or not, like, yeah, everything was.
How did you guys do that? That's what I mean. Like, I don't understand. Like, it would fucking kill me. This makes me not want to watch it for a whole another year. Just to pisses me off. Like,
I was done with the show after they killed Ned almost. I was like,
yeah.
killed Ned.
well, they said that, didn't I? Remember?
I honestly, yeah, you did say that, but I honestly felt that way because I'm like, there's nobody redeemable left on the fucking show after they killed him. I'm like, what is this? I'm gonna watch the rest of these fucking assholes the whole time, and then like as me and Leslie said, the writing is just so good, the character development is so good that they actually made you care about some of these people. But at the end of that season, I'm like, there is no one that I feel like I want to see win on this show moving forward. Like, right?
On top of it,
they had to spend
everybody like in Ned's family.
Yeah.
Everybody in Ned's family has been getting the shit end of the stick too, on top of it all. So it's like, what are we watching this shit for? Everybody that seems to be good, or seems to have some sort of decency in them, is fucking dying.
So now
that's why I'm cheering Ramsey right now, like, because I'm going, he's fucking, I like him. Let's see what happens. Right, he might be to the end.
Is that what you're? Are you seriously cheering for Ramsey now?
Loves it.
Well, I specifically said it. Yeah, I said I want to know what, in a weird way, I want to know what it's like to go for a coffee and smoke a joint with the guy. As this character, I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to ask. There's so many questions I want to ask. Like, I don't know, in the sense that, like, I want to study the fucking guy.
Okay. Ask some questions. I'm curious now. Go.
No, but just how he's just the way he even acted those scenes. Like, this, just the way he's been that fucking sick, perverted weirdo, and cutting people's fucking penises off and learning how to do all that fucking torture that he did.
And you admire this?
I don't know. I would like to sit down and have a coffee and interview him, like, in that sense. Like, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like, a weird.
So you're telling me that you would be happy if he fucking won it all and became the new King of Thrones?
I mean, shit happened worse than this so far in this series. looks like he's gonna be the only one left because he's a real prick.
I
Like,
don't get it, Leslie. I don't get it either. I think it's a good
I don't
character.
get it either, man. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for this guy. Oh,
But anyways, well, that's gonna do it for this episode. The finale is season 5, though, everyone. And Leslie,
thank you for saving this
for joining
episode for me.
absolutely.
Even though, like, you know, Christine and Kyle, they're like really, really a lot better at like explaining
Aw, I
themselves. I think, I mean, like they
watched
have
it
like
100 times.
I know, but like I just loved this episode. It was my favorite episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, I loved it more than the finale, even though I did love the finale, but a lot of people didn't, and I get it too, right?
Yes.
But I was content with it, right?
No,
I
I'm
mean, like,
interested to revisit it. I mean, I think
yeah,
that we're very divided in that sense, absolutely. But I think that being said, I was more on the happy with the finale side than I was on the and you know, and as Christina had mentioned, she came on a late night chat episode, one of her earliest episodes, honestly.
yeah.
And at that time discussed the finale in length with me, to Jay not understanding anything, because and we're actually going to probably we've been playing with the idea of going back and rewatching that episode to hear what we had to say after we record our thoughts on the finale this time around, because I'm
Right.
excited to hear where we've come in that sense. And from what I understand, I think Christina even kind of has different thoughts on the finale now than she did initially going into it, because there was so much riding on it. There were such big people are such big fans of this show that is one of those things where, like, I don't think for a lot of folks, no matter what they did, it was going to meet their expectations at that moment in time.
Yeah, I
right?
think
Sometimes
any-
far removed from it, you kind of learn a new appreciation for it, right? Like, so I think we're
some people like the sad endings for the heroes, and some people like the happy endings for the heroes.
yeah.
And some people want the heroes to be heroes, and some people can't accept when heroes have their downfall either. So, I mean, like, it's all about, you're never going to make everyone happy. That's just
It
the way
takes
I
a while
see
to
things,
sink into everything, right?
It's not
right?
that. I think the biggest complaint, the one I totally agree with, because I felt this throughout the last season, is just, again, the pacing. The fact that they were trying to wrap it up and they weren't given the time and the care that they've had been able to for 6 fucking seasons.
Because they didn't have a book also to run off it. They
No.
kind of had to like talk to the guy and say, what's the ending?
Honestly,
How are we going to make this fucking happen?
not only
Yeah.
that, Leslie, but there's so much bad behind the scenes type stuff that was going
Yeah.
on in terms of the production of this show and the writers and everything else that was going on, that we can literally spend a whole episode at that time
Right.
to go to wrap this show up talking about that stuff, because
I'm actually not aware of a lot of it, right? Just the fact that the last book wasn't written either. So
Right.
a lot of it was kind of like
Off script.
asking the actual author of the book, where do you think this is going to go? Because now we don't know, and we want to give it justice since you're a part of it, right?
there's that part of it as well, but there's a lot of other politics involved, even stuff that honestly has come out I think over the last year or two, because every time I see articles, I tend to click on them and look into this a little bit.
Yeah.
And even there's been people now that have even been coming forward as a result of, obviously, House of the Dragon and stuff like that. I talked about the end and how it was received, and even a lot of the actors, quite frankly, were very disappointed with the ending in that sense, because they had grown with these characters through so many years, to see some of them basically just shunted off to the side and forgotten about, plot threads left hanging, things not coming to completions in some, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, there were certain ends that people weren't happy of, just because of the sense, like, you know, they didn't like those endings for these characters, some of them.
Right.
That's all personal opinion once you get into that. But I think it was other stuff, I feel like, that ruined the experience, I think, for some, knowing the big fans that even know about what's going on in terms of the production of the show and everything else. And like, that really soured, I think, a lot of people's experience going into, but, you know, so there's a lot to talk about in those final seasons. So, like, again, if you did want to come and join us for another episode at some point, Leslie, let us know.
I will.
The end. And
Loving it.
yeah, and of course, House of the Dragon, you know, that's right around the corner. Hopefully, season 2 when we get into the summer. So
now that everything's back on and ready to go.
Yeah. So this,
I will definitely be wanting to be on one of those episodes too.
Yeah, because we're gonna have a fresh perspective on those too as well.
Right. So this will be the first time we're all watching it. Yeah.
So
For a second time.
definitely. Yeah. Well, we might have to watch it twice before recording it for sure.
Yeah.
So definitely come back and join us again at some point, Leslie. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for
thank you for having me. Thank you for saving this episode for me.
book your episode, eh? You know, because we have a lot of people that want to get on these episodes.
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
and we're
I'm
having
not, you know, like if
World
you've
War
already
III stuff going
I
on.
will
So
pick
we
an
need,
episode, but if you got someone else, like I'm not, you know, like this is the only one I insisted on. Everything else, you know, like
you know,
I
for
could be
people
on
that
any
don't,
episode, right? To be
yeah,
honest with you, if you
and we
guys
love
want me
that.
back, I'll just pick any episode. I'm not gonna, I mean, like take away from Kyle and Christine because these guys are like, you know,
These guys know
serious Game
exactly
of
the
Thrones.
name and number and
Right.
fucking
Yeah.
everything of the
I mean,
episode.
like
That's
I'm a
crazy.
Game of
That
Thrones
trips me
super
out.
fan, but they're super, super, super fan.
I'm
Like
still
they're
waiting to
family.
play the game.
You held your own though. You held your own.
Yeah, yeah. This was
Good
my
stuff.
favorite episode. I loved it. I loved it because of shame, not because of Jon Snow dying.
Of course, who the fuck would love
But
that part?
shame. Well, I know, but it was so funny because when you go ahead and literally text me, you fucking bitch, you wanted to come on this show because Jon Snow died, and
Texted-
I'm like, no, I have one word, shame.
I knew
That's why I wanted to come.
I knew that was the case, Leslie. I did know. I did know.
I know you know,
but
but
was,
this guy.
he's too focused on that. I know. But anyway.
That's all this guy's focused on. I'm like, no, Cersei got hers.
So one more time, Jay, in response to that.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Yeah, okay. So there you have it, everybody. So I do want to mention the next episode, which is episode 1 of season 6. Look forward to that. These shows
Alrighty.
still are dropping every Thursday at 8 p.m. They are premiere live, but you can always go back and check the playlist out. Yeah, 50 episodes and counting now. Very nice. Definitely go check that out, guys. And hopefully you've joined us on this journey. But the name of the next episode is The Red Woman, who I guess is Melisandre. I don't know.
Well, that's why I had to fucking check, bro, because I didn't know what was going on with her. She had just walked into the castle and gave John that like look, you know, like I want to do you again, sort of thing, you know. So I was like,
There you
maybe
go.
she wrote his body when he was dead, you know, and I don't know.
I still have mixed feelings about Melisandre, but we'll get to that after you've.
There's one more fucking juicy reveal about something coming down the pike at some point that I can't wait for Jay to fucking see, because I really just want his reaction on this one, especially. And
With
But I really don't know what's
Melisandre?
going on from here.
Or
on out.
the
I just
other
was
big
worried about-
reveal.
I can't get into it. But there's one really. It's actually not even that big of a reveal,
You
but
can text each other about it.
it's a reveal because I kind of just want to get his reaction because of comments that he had made previously in regards to this.
I know what you're talking about now. Now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to that, but we'll leave it at that, guys.
Yeah.
So, as always, thank you, Leslie. Thank you for joining us, and Jay,
Thank you guys.
Thank you as always. And remember, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Shame. Shame.
All right.
Shame.
Well, we'll see you guys next time. Later, everyone. Oh, wrong song.
I was gonna say, I think that's the wrong song, dude.